it doesn't look that good.
Oh.
I overcooked it.
Okay.
So if somebody wants it, they can have, if they say they're gluten-free,
Okay.
we'll say we have some in the bag.
Gotcha.
Okay. We are good. Hello.
Hi.
Welcome.
Thank
Glad
you.
to see you. What's your name?
Ann Nelson.
Anne.
Yes.
I'm Evelyn. Nice to meet you.
Pleased to meet you.
Hello. How are you? Nice to see you. Welcome, welcome. I'm Evelyn.
I'm
D-Lynn. Nice to meet you.
Hi, Evelyn. Do you
I
remember
see
me?
you. Yes, I do.
What's my name?
I don't, you'll have
It's
to
been a
tell
long
me.
time, but she was at our church in Urbandale. Jenny Grubbs.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I love your family. It's been a long time. Yeah.
You doing okay?
Yes. It's been 30 plus years.
I know.
What brings you here?
We moved down here 4 years ago. Our daughter.
Oh,
was
did
here.
you? Oh, it's a nice
With her.
neighborhood. Yeah.
She thinks we're old.
She what?
She thinks we're old.
Well, I tell you, I used to think 70 was old until you get there and then you go, I still got some juice.
Well, that's a good thing.
Are we all ready?
Welcome, welcome.
Hi, Evelyn.
Nice to see you. It's been a while.
I know.
Hi. Glad you're here. Thanks for coming.
Yeah. This will be good.
Welcome, welcome.
Hi there. How are you?
Nice
He's
to
blind.
see
You'll
you.
have to get him.
Hello. Glad you're here.
Hello.
Hello. Glad you all came.
Thank you.
They had 20-some signed up, so they said maybe 5 after just
Fine.
arriving.
Fine, fine.
Groups now.
No problem. It's good. So you've been doing this for 9 months? 10 months?
I forget when we started. Is it March?
Mm.
February, March?
Mm-hmm. Cool.
Not quite a year, but we're
Wonderful.
rolling along.
Wonderful.
We get slightly different crowd for
Really? whole grains, but they do have gluten. But I made some.
All right, good evening. As our last guests to enter are coming in, we'll give you a minute to go ahead and get settled wherever you're comfortable. But while you are, I would like to just tickle your memory with a little something to store back there.
For you.
So we're going to go ahead and just start with announcements. I'm glad you're here, Levi, one of our faithful kindergartners over there. It comes every time. All right, so as much as we enjoy this, never too much, good information about health, right? And so we have something coming. I'm not going to give all the details this evening. You're going to have to watch for posts. But we have a new health challenge and support group coming to Village. Doesn't that sound exciting? My school has often done a challenge, and I'll tell you, there's something irresistible about that. And it will be coming in January, but there will be upcoming announcements, and you'll begin to get the details. So just be watching. Watch our website, watch the bulletin, wherever you get your information for Village Church. Also on our Facebook page and on Instagram, anywhere that you get information about Village. Watch for the upcoming health challenge. Details to come. All right, well, we are so glad that you're here this evening. We're still having some more friends join us, and we're glad for that. I've been looking forward to this evening. There's someone here that I've been trying to think, Evelyn, how long do we go back? Evelyn Kissinger and I have been doing food, enticing people to eat things and teaching them why they should eat them for so long. Now, she's got all the degrees. She has all the information, but she lets me play alongside her when it comes to kids. And so we've worked together to entice kids to love eating. And you know what we found out along the way? That the best way to change the health habits of a family is to tell the kids. They go home and do all the rest of the work for you. So we've had an awful lot of fun. And if you're ever interested, we've written a curriculum that we offer to folks for getting your kids cooking in the kitchen. And alongside the cooking, they also learn why they're eating like that. Whole foods, plant-based, that they get to cook, and they learn about, including something coming and going here for me. Up like this? Okay. All right, I'll get this down. Anyway, it's called Healthy on Purpose. Talk to Evelyn or I if you're interested in doing some cooking in the kitchen and teaching your kids the principles of healthy eating, everything down to reading labels. All right, I understand that you get to self-serve this evening, so there are a couple things. I haven't heard the official name. I call it a fruit stack. What do you call it, Evelyn?
That's good enough.
All right. So we have a fruit stack this evening, and there's lots. You're welcome to help yourselves. There's so much grain for the bottom, and then your fruit to put on. It is not gluten-free what's on the table, but she has prepared for that. So if you are gluten-free or need that, do better with that, just ask, and there's something oat-based in the back that we'll give you for the base of your fruit stack instead. All right, we're going to get started with the food. We'll dismiss in just a minute after we have prayer, and then we'll come back together. We'll meet our guest speaker and have some fun finding out how, and not just how, but why we do this. Let's bow our heads and thank God for what we have. Lord, it's a special Thanksgiving when we not only have the good food that you've provided, but that someone else has prepared for us. And so we just thank you for the bounty of this evening, the clear display of your power in growing each of these things, and then your love in showing us how and why we should eat them. We thank you, Lord, for allowing us to participate in our own health, and we pray that you would help us this evening to be blessed in our health as we share together socially and also spiritually as we realize this gift from your hand. In Jesus' precious name we pray. Amen. All right. Do you want to start dismissing table, Dr. Hess? All right. Who's going to go first this evening? Ladies, why don't you start us out? Show us how to build that beautiful fruit stack.
So this is a mix of grains. You start with this on the bottom. Well, we'll fix you up a gluten-free one. Both sides. And after you get your grains, then you just put all the toppings on. And there's some. They're all the same. Yes, they're all the same. You can use either kind. All the grains are the same. There she is.
I think those happy sounds mean you're enjoying it. Isn't it nice when you get to build your own? And anytime you can serve a meal for guests or family where they get to build their own, you get a little more buy-in, don't you? So I hear that there is an ample amount and that you're welcome to go back. If you'd like a little bit more for seconds, you can just get up quietly as we're talking. But we will begin revealing the secrets behind the fruit stack and some other things. So, Evelyn, would you come and join me, please? Evelyn Kissinger is a registered dietitian, a former professor of dietetics, at Andrews University. She has traveled the world helping people to live a healthier lifestyle for many companies, some large groups. And we have her here in Little Berrien Springs. Isn't that exciting? So, Evelyn, every time we get together, I learn something new. It was years ago as we were developing the children's program. Her idea is my writing. She's the brains behind it, and first said, "You kidify it." As we were doing that, I got to talk to her a lot, and I was starting to have some blood sugar issues where I would get a dip. Do any of you have that problem? You eat breakfast and it just doesn't last until lunch, and you're either really hungry or you actually start to feel low energy. And so I shared that with her, and her secret was beans. I just heard somebody that maybe that secret was just shared with you tonight, because I overheard someone say that it was a little odd for them to think of putting beans in their breakfast, and then they said, "But it's good." And I have to say, what an amazing blood sugar stabilizer. It has helped me, and I told her all these years later, we've known each other many years, I still had my beans for breakfast this morning. Are you proud of me?
You are
All right. Yeah, I'm converted. It has helped me for so many years. All right, so Evelyn, let's dig in. What is it that we have to share this evening for these
We are going to talk about your gut microbiome. Have you ever heard of your microbiome? Well, we're going to talk about it. And it's one of the most fascinating subjects, I think, that I'm studying right now. And it's answering so many questions that I've had over the years. I graduated in '75 and started actually teaching about fiber in the early 80s. And that has become my platform for all of these years, is eat more fiber. And now we understand a lot of why the fiber is so important, dietary fiber. And now with the research, with the technology, we can actually identify and understand more about what's going on in the gut. And so that's what we're going to talk about tonight.
All right, and you'll find out if you listen long enough that Evelyn works from a framework, a philosophical framework that I love. And this fiber and everything else she tells you will fit in that, within that framework. She says, you don't have to focus on the bad. You don't have to focus, I've got to get rid of this or I've got to do that. Focus on getting more good in. You know what happens? The other takes care of itself. And fibers.
Don't you teach adding before subtracting?
For sure.
Yeah, that's what we do.
And if you subtract first, you end up with a vacuum. What do I do now?
That's
so
right.
Instead, we're going to learn what good to put in and then just put more of it in until it's all good.
That's right. You are right. So let's talk about what you're eating. This could be a new experience for you, but I want to tell you some of the grains that are in here. The first one is oat groats. Have you ever heard of an oat groat? Maybe you can pass this around. The oat groat is the whole oat. So it has the bran layer taken off.
One thing I find interesting is they all look so much alike. So how
They
about
do.
if I bring two of them and you
Yeah,
can
we're
see,
going to pass them all
we can
around.
compare.
The second one is an older wheat called kamut. It's a little lower in gluten. And the third one, you see those are from Apple Valley, and this one is from Country Life. So they sell it in smaller quantities. We buy it in 25-pound bags. It looks like we're feeding horses at our house. But we buy the 4 grains. So that's the oats and the kamut, and then there's spelt. Spelt is another awesome whole grain, and then barley. And the barley and oats happen to be excellent soluble fibers that are especially important in balancing blood sugar levels and can actually be beneficial in lowering blood cholesterol levels. So you can see the difference in all of those grains. When we bring it home, right now, you have to buy them all separate, and then we have a nice big bucket where we mix all the grains together. And so my husband is actually in charge of breakfast, so he makes this. So all of these are mixed together in equal proportions, and then when it's time to make breakfast, this is done in the evening. So Peter will decide if we need a new batch or not. So we have a slow cooker, and in the slow cooker, you put, for each cup of mixed grains, they've already been mixed, you can add either 1 or 2 cups of water. If you like it a little creamier, you add a little more water. And this, you're experiencing that this is a cereal that is very flaky. Some people have an issue with oatmeal because the consistency isn't something that they enjoy. So if you want it more creamy, you just add a little more water to it when you're cooking it. So you'll take the grains, and these are whole grains that's been what we do is we rinse them. So we put it in a container, our grains, then we add water, swoosh it around, pour the water off in the colander, and I usually do it 3 times just to rinse the grains. Once the grains are rinsed, you dump it into your slow cooker, and then you add the appropriate amount of water. We usually do the 1 cup because we like it very chewy. Put the lid on, and we have a little timer. The timer comes on at 3 in the morning, and it cooks till 6 in the morning for 3 hours. It cooks for 3 hours. So it takes about less than 10 minutes, Peter would say less than that, to put it in the crock pot, plug it in, and then in the morning when you wake up, your cereal is ready. Depending on the time of the year will depend on what the toppings are. And Peter will say it's only as good as the toppings that you put on it. So depending on the year, the time of the year, and what's fresh. And as you can see that we don't usually use this many, but we usually have quite a variety of different fruits that we'll add. The berries, as you know, are very high in dietary fiber. What's your favorite berry?
Oh, I have to choose just one. I always use all 4 of them together. I have a question for you. Do you ever use frozen fruit or berries?
We sure do. We use lots of different frozen. And I like to get them at Gordon Foods in a very large bag. This one happens to be blackberries. And the other thing we didn't serve tonight, but we love sour cherries. We actually like a sour taste. And maybe you put a few cranberries on your cereal tonight and trying that. But the sour is something that we actually enjoy. Did you have a question? Yes.
You said cook for 3 hours on low or
On high. Cook it on high for 3 hours. Yes. So you've got the berries, and things that are usually pretty familiar are bananas. We almost always have apples. Love those. Grapes is a must. We eat grapes all year round on ours. And then the toppings. You want to add your omega-3 fats. Where do we find those?
In seeds.
Yep, in seeds and nuts.
And our brains like those omega-3 fatty acids.
It doesn't have as many, right? So you want walnuts and chia or hemp, or if you use the flaxseed, you want to grind them because your teeth will not chew them well enough to break them apart, so you'll get the good stuff during digestion.
Sometimes health providers recommend that we use fish oil, but instead we can grind the flaxseed and get the omega-3.
Where do those fish get omega-3?
Right.
They get it from the plants.
Yes.
They get it from the seaweed.
And
Yeah,
so
and the
I don't know
plants.
what you use. I use a little coffee grinder. It takes, I don't know, 15, 20 seconds, and you have a tablespoon or two of just little fine meal that is fresh. And something about the fat is that it goes rancid so quickly in those seeds. But by grinding it fresh, just as you're ready to make your breakfast, you have all.
Yes. The secret ingredient are beans. Now, this was something when I heard about putting beans, I don't know about that. But you know, a lot of countries have beans for breakfast, or some kind of grain with it. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about the magic of beans in a few minutes. But this is something, and maybe you notice that when you have beans that's mixed with fruit, I mean, that doesn't sound like it would be good, but it could be something that works for you. You may need to think of it as medicine if you actually need those beans in the morning until your taste buds adapt to it, because those beans can help your blood sugar level tremendously, so that when you have your breakfast, it stays with you until lunch and you're not trying to get into other little things to satisfy your appetite. So you had beans for breakfast. What did you have this morning?
I did. I had a mixture of some veggies and some beans, and what else did I have? Some whole grain toast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it did stick with me. I wasn't hungry for lunch, so I got the kids fed, and then I could eat.
Yes. And this is also, these grains are also good just cold. I mean, if I'm traveling, I have this for breakfast, and then something really easy is just to put the grains in a to-go bowl with some nuts and grapes or whatever fruit, and it's good kind of cold too. Another way is that it looks kind of like rice, you know? So if you're making a bean dish and you're going, oh, maybe I'll just use my breakfast grains over the beans. And so it can be very versatile in different ways that you can use it.
Do you ever pour milk over it, make a little parfait or anything like that?
Yes, and we did have some milk at the end.
Okay.
After this is cooked, the first morning, we usually just have it warm like this. But then you have a lot made, so you put it in the refrigerator, and then the next morning you take out your out of the refrigerator, and then put this in a saucepan, and we pour soy milk in and warm it up. And then you scoop that onto your bowl and then add your fruit. So to warm it up, we use some kind of a plant milk. We choose soy. And I prefer soy because, if you're not allergic to it, because it does have a higher protein contribution. And you've got a lot of phytoestrogens, phytochemicals, and nutrients that are very immune enhancing.
I've run into a lot of people that scares them off when they hear about phytoestrogens. Is that something we should be worried about?
Phytoestrogens are something that's very beneficial for all of us, men and women.
They actually protect against those cancers.
They actually are
instead of,
very protective.
Yes,
That's
amazing.
for sure. Yes.
And
Are
you
there
might choose your bean that's your favorite. If you're eating beans for breakfast and that's really unusual for you, I started by picking my favorite bean. My husband was so sick and tired of garbanzos because I always picked garbanzos. Until I was so used to it, it was such a part of my life that I started to branch out a little bit.
Yes. Yeah, I've noticed that you want to rinse the beans. So the black or the garbanzo have a mild flavor. And so I will choose one or the other of those in the breakfast beans, but a variety of other beans at other times.
Black beans have an amazing amount of fiber. I think it's 7 grams to a serving, which is
7 or 8 grams in a serving. So if you eat a cup of them, that's for a half a cup.
wow.
Then we're going to get to looking at grams of fiber in a few minutes, but you can get almost half the fiber you need in a cup of beans a day.
Yes, my husband one time had a coworker say, they say you should get, and I don't remember, I think they said 20 grams of fiber a day, and we thought, 20, we shoot for a lot more than that, but let's see. He said, I can't ever get that much in a day. So we were sitting at the breakfast table when he mentioned it. We sat and looked at what we'd been eating. We said, well, we've gotten that and a little bit more just in breakfast.
Just in breakfast, that's right. That's right. And that gets you off to a great start for your gut, your brain, your immune system. Yeah, and it'll probably make you happier and nicer too. When we feel good.
When our body feels good, our brain feels good.
That's right. That's right. Okay. Any questions about the recipe? Okay, so you can decide if this is something you think that you and your family would enjoy doing. One of my goals is just to pass on the good news, and I'm going to tell you why I started this with my slides.
Nice.
All right. Okay, well, thank you very much. And
right,
feel
did
free to
you-
get up while we're talking and get some more with the toppings that you like. So can we just move right into?
Sure, you sure
Okay.
can. Thank you so much. Can we thank her for the beautiful meal we've just had?
But please help yourself to more. So my whole life has been trying to help people to understand the value of eating healthy food and to say yes to life-giving foods. And the grains that we use today is on your handout: oat groats, whole barley, whole kamut, and whole spelt. And there's so many benefits of eating the whole grain. The seeds have life in them. Anybody ever sprouted beans, grains? You can, you see it has life in it. Or you take one of those beans and put it in the ground. My mom died at 99 a couple of years ago. She had a green thumb, and she would plant things and they would grow. And she would, if she was eating a food and it had seeds in it, like a red pepper or something, she would save those seeds, dry them, and grow them. So seeds have life in them. And in the get-go, when God says, I'm giving you all this good food that's surrounded by seeds, or is a seed, it gives life. And every meal that we choose to eat these kinds of foods gives us life. I found this recipe when I was a part of a group in Marshall Islands. We were doing a diabetes reversal program there. And one of the things that we served them was grains and beans for breakfast. These are the other two dietitians that I worked with there. And Brenda, who's written many books on nutrition, she and I were part of that group. And you can see there's a variety of things that we had available for breakfast. But if you look at you can't see the pot very well because it's a dark color, but in the pot are beans and grains. And we did this combination of grains, and we saw remarkable changes in helping to actually reverse diabetes in just a couple of weeks. We saw changes in blood sugar levels. And one of the comments that was so amazing is they would say things like, "It feels like a fog has been lifted from my head." They even noticed the brain benefit, as well as blood sugar, and seeing cholesterol levels come down and blood sugars more stable, triglycerides being a little more stable or coming down where they needed to be. So this was the breakfast that we served them. This is one of the employees from the government who's being watched by one of the physicians that was helping us there. We taught people how to actually prepare these foods as well. A simple meal that you can make in the morning is using the old-fashioned rolled oats and adding some chia seed, and you put this in the refrigerator overnight with some plant milk, and then you add your toppings in the morning. And this is a nice to-go. But if we stay with more of the whole grains, we get some benefit from that. So you use at least 1 to 2 cups of water per cup of grains in the slow cooker on high for 3 hours. is our favorite way to make them, and to use the timer so that it cooks while we sleep. The topic tonight I'd like to share with you is what begins in your gut. It's called your microbiome. The microbiome is a collection of bacteria, viruses, fungi, and their genes that naturally live inside of our bodies. And the types of foods we eat will determine what kind of microbiome is residing in our body, especially in our gut. How the microbiome, as we said, is the bacteria, viruses, and fungi, and there's a lot of them. 39 to 300 trillion. That's a pretty broad spectrum. That's because we don't really know how many we have, but there's a slew of them in there. They say we have about 30 trillion body cells, and we have more bacteria cells or more microbiome cells than we do body cells. There's many different species. Right now they're saying there's 30 to different families of microbiome that resides in the gut. And most of the microbiome in the body does reside in the gut. We have it on our skin and in our eyes and all over us, but the majority is in the gut. The largest amount is in our colon, and it weighs, if we were to pile it all on the table, it would weigh about 3 pounds. So it's very, very tiny and very prolific. The GI tract is a long tube. Do you know how long the tube is, your GI tract? Let's do some guessing. Oh, here we go. I have an assistant. How long is your GI tract? How long do you think this is? 30? Around 30. You read your thing probably. 30 feet, 25 to 30 feet long, depending on how tall you are. But it's a long, long tube where food goes through the tube. So we have a nice tube, and when we eat the food, the body is very protective of when does the food actually get absorbed and utilized and whatever. So there is a nice lining throughout the gut that protects, and it should be very tight together, all the cells tight together. But if they have little openings in them, we call that a leaky gut. Is a leaky gut a good thing? No, because it allows the food particles before they're ready to go into the bloodstream. And that can cause a number of issues with our health and with our gut. So we want this nice lining, and as we eat healthy foods and have the right microbiome, it makes this a very tightness so that what goes into the gut stays there until it's ready to be absorbed and broken down. So this long tube is about 25 to 30 feet long. If it were all laid out, this is hard to imagine, it would cover the size of a badminton court. I don't even know how to visualize that, but but there's a lot of little crevices in the gut all the way down, and if it were all spread out, they say the surface area would be about the size of a badminton court. In the gut, there's 100 times more area than in your skin. So just looking at the amount of skin that you have, and then times 100 is what's going on the inside. There's about 50 million neurons. Now, this was an interesting discovery, when they found out that there's not just neurons in the brain, but there's neurons in the gut as well. About 1/200th as much as is in the brain, and 5 times more than what's in the spinal cord. And every 5 days or so, we get a new lining here in our gut. So the microbiome, what's its job? One of the major things is it regulates metabolism, and it determines how fast you're going to burn calories as well. It is a huge influencer of immunity. They say that 70 to 80% of the immunity in our body is influenced by the type of microbiome we have, and it influences our brain health. So metabolizing our metabolism, the energy that we get, and also has a lot to do with our body size, our body weight. And some of the interesting studies they've done is they've taken a thin mouse and they've injected the microbiome from the thin mouse and put it into an overweight mouse, and it would lose weight. They did the opposite and took the microbiome from the overweight mouse and put it into the thin one, and it gained weight. So now we know, we're understanding more how the microbiome can affect metabolism. Two people can eat the same amount of calories, but the way, depending on our microbiome and our metabolism, will determine how our body actually utilizes those. I think it's on your handout. Yes. All of those. Yes. Also, when we're eating good high fiber foods, actually some of the fat that's actually in the foods can be kind of go through the body rather than being absorbed, and those calories are not used. So the fat metabolism is also affected by the microbiome. Immunity, 70 to 80% of our immunity is influenced by the type of microbiome that we have. So what it can help do is reduce inflammation. We know that inflammation is the root of many lifestyle diseases, like, what's a lifestyle disease? Some forms of arthritis, diabetes type 2, some heart disease, and some forms of cancer. Reducing inflammation. It can stimulate a robust immunity. It can balance the response to the kinds of bugs that shouldn't be inside of us and take care of those. It can educate throughout the body. So the microbiome actually sends signals all through the body, to the brain, to the different organs, and gives signals on how to handle the immune system. And it conditions by this signaling. It also affects our brain health. Some even call the gut the second brain because of its similarity. Nearly every chemical that controls the brain is also located in the stomach region. Just as the brain can upset the gut can also upset the brain. Over 30 different neurons that are found in the brain are also found in the gut. 95% of our good feeling serotonin is actually made in the gut. About 50% of the dopamine, which is our motivating hormone, is actually found in the gut. What influences the type of microbiome we have? What we eat, our exercise, and getting enough sleep. You've heard of probiotics. Probiotics are the actual bugs. Prebiotics are the food. The dietary fiber that we eat feeds the bugs that are in the system so that they can respond in a certain way. So these would be fiber foods. The probiotics are actually the live bacteria, like in yogurt or sauerkraut, miso. Can you think of others? Kefir. Kefir is our way you're supposed to pronounce it, they say. And then there are postbiotics. And the postbiotics are pretty amazing. So you eat the fiber, it feeds the microbiome, and the microbiome produces short-chain fatty acids. And they have different names: butyrate, acetate, propionate. And those guys are amazing, those short-chain fatty acids. They give us energy. They're actually nutrition for the gut to make sure the gut stays healthy and make sure that lining stays nice and tight, regulates metabolism, our blood sugar levels, affects the immunity, the gut-brain connection, our mood and cognition, and also gene expression. So these short-chain fatty acids are amazing. And so we eat the fiber, it feeds the microbiome produces other substances like short-chain fatty acids. So nutrition has a powerful effect on our health. Olivia's going to come and help me do something. Olivia, can you come up? So there are some foods that we eat that actually produce bacteria that we really don't want. Now, I know you don't drink this stuff, at least very often, right? So we're going to see how much sugar is in here. Total sugars, what do you see?
46 grams.
46 grams of sugar. Does that mean anything to anybody? Would you hold that right there? 46 grams of sugar. How many grams of sugar is in a teaspoon? Close. 4. 46 divided by 4 is what? You don't have to do the math. 11 and a half, right? Okay. I want y'all to count with me. Here we go. 1, I don't hear you. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 and a half. What would happen if you put that much sugar on your cereal in the morning? What would your papa say? Whoa. That's a way too much, isn't it? So that would be 46 grams. So 46 grams is what's in one serving. How many servings do you think is in this bottle? 3 or 4? What do you think?
3.
3 servings are in there. What's 11 and a half and an 11 and a half? Add that up. 23. Okay, I've already measured it for you. So this is the amount of sugar that's in 1 liter of Mountain Dew. Maybe we should call it Mountain Don't, right? You think? But what happens when a person drinks all this? Do you know people who drink this stuff? Yeah. So this feeds the microbiome that loves sugar. And then that microbiome kind of gets hungry down there and says, send me some more sugar. And this is part of what makes us crave sugar. And the other thing it does is it changes our taste buds. The microbiome has an effect on taste buds. And maybe you have noticed that if you've cut back on sugar, if you have something sweet again, another bowl of ice cream with stuff on it, you go, whoa, this is really sweet. It changes it. Give Olivia a big hand. Good job, dear. Thank you. And this is also a big influencer of inflammation. And a lot of that has to do with the microbiome. Another issue in the American diet is fats. And I want to show you how much fat are in some foods. This is an 8-ounce piece of meat, about the size or the thickness of my hand. And if it was the kind that went on a grill, it would be 60 grams of fat. 1 tablespoon of fat is 15 grams of fat. A tablespoon of any kind of fat is 15 grams. So what would 2 tablespoons be? 30. And 3 would be 45. And 4 would be 60. So this is about the amount of fat that's in an 8-ounce piece of meat. It's also the amount that would be in 6 handfuls of Fritos. Meddling a little bit there, right? That's also the amount in a large burger and fries, 60 grams of fat. 4 pieces of cheese pizza has about 60 grams of fat. What happens when we eat this much fat for breakfast, eggs and bacon, whatever, for lunch, for dinner, all through the day? It changes the microbiome. It changes the immunity. It changes the inflammation factor in the body. So those are things, and when the microbiome for fat gets a little low, it says, can you give me another dose of fat? Whoops, there with my Mountain Dew. So foods high in saturated fat promote the growth of unhealthy populations of the microbiota, causing inflammation and increasing cravings for fat. And we just learned that little trigger happy there. We just learned that 60 grams of fat is found in foods that are very typical. I didn't do the ice cream, but 3 scoops of ice cream would also give you about 60 grams of fat. This is the food that provides the most amount of sugar in the American diet. Number 1 source is soda. The recommendation is like 25 to 35 grams of sugar a day. How much was in 1 serving of the soda we just looked at? What was in 1 serving? 46 in 1 serving. The recommended for the day is 25 to 35 grams for the whole day. So we are quite exceeding. And if you have diabetes or hypoglycemia, high triglycerides, you probably want to even lower that even more. But we have cheap food, calorie-dense food, oversized portions that are being marketed to us that are highly flavorable. There's a great book called Salt, Sugar, Fat that gives us the history of the food industry. And they knew before most of us did about the brain effect. They called it the bliss factor. That when you crunch into it or you eat that smooth stuff, that all of a sudden you have the lights go on. And there's a array of stimulation and those neurotransmitters. And they called it the bliss factor. Well, they know that the more of the bliss factor, the more you're going to buy the food, right? And so they have an interest in selling their product. This is a strawberry milkshake. There are no strawberries. There is no milk. It's just a bunch of chemicals. And we know that those chemicals affect the microbiome as well. The worst foods for gut health: refined sugar, refined grains, artificial sweeteners, too much fat, and fried foods. So those are the things to stay away from. But what are the foods that your microbiome loves? The healthy microbiome, the fiber foods, more fruits and veggies, more beans, more whole grains, more nuts and seeds. A book that I think is quite a nice one that's written by Will Bulsick, called Fiber Fueled. Has anybody ever seen this one? It's a pretty nice book. He's a gastroenterologist, and he's written a pretty nice book on eating more fiber. He quotes a study in there from San Diego where they found out that if you eat 30 different foods in a week, that can help you to develop a healthy microbiome. Do you think you eat 30 different foods in a week? How many foods did we have on our table back there? A whole bunch. You could probably get quite a bit in your breakfast. Or making a soup. If you have a vegetable bean soup, you even get to count like the spices. If you put basil or oregano or thyme or any of these spices, they actually count in those 30. Each food will contribute different kinds of microbiota, different kinds. On the skin of an apple, you have different colonies of microbiome. Inside the apple is a different one. You eat it, and then that provides an opportunity for that microbiome to grow. And what will make it grow is eating more fiber foods. And so getting an array of different foods can help with having a more robust microbiome. So get fiber fueled, and on your handout you see where a lot of these dietary fiber foods come from. Now the American recommendation is around 20 grams a day, but we found in the wellness area and preventive world that 30 to 50 grams of dietary fiber a day is really a nice target. But you do not want to go from 8 to 10 grams a day to 50 grams tomorrow, because your gut won't know what to do with it. So you gradually increase the amount of fiber that you're eating over a few days or a few weeks. But for kids, it's a little bit less. It's around 20 to 25. But it's found in whole grains, vegetables, and fruits. You find lots of different fiber, but the winner is the beans. And as we mentioned a while ago, that you can have up to 16 grams, 10 to 16 grams of fiber in a cup of beans. And if we were to look around the world, we would see that even around the world, people eat beans for breakfast. Does anybody else eat beans for breakfast here? Yeah, what do you have? Oh, is it kind of like a cereal? Hot. Okay, over toast. Wonderful. Anybody else eat beans? What do you have? Great Northern beans. How do you make them?
I usually just cook them in the Instapot,
Yeah.
and sometimes the water that's in it, somebody showed me how they add seasonings to that, and so it's more like a sauce with it, and I like that better than just eating it plain. But
So do you eat it like in a bowl, or do you put it over toast?
over toast would be nice, sometimes over even waffles,
Over waffles. What kind of waffles?
a soy waffle.
Oh, okay. We'll come to your house for breakfast. Anybody else do beans for breakfast? Yeah. What do you have?
British style baked beans. So only a little bit of honey instead of a whole bunch of sugar. Very nice, homemade. Over toast or rice. It's very nice.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah. Around the world, most cultures have survived because of the bean-grain combination. And we can learn a lot from other cultures, eating ethnic foods and finding new ways of seasoning them and enjoying them in different ways. So beans would be the winner, but not only do they have dietary fiber, they have a slew of other nutrients that are so healthy for us, one of the best sources of plant proteins. Leafy greens, they have so many different contributions to our health, and the greens happen to be up in the 10 to 12 grams of fiber per serving, per cup. Berries, very high in fiber, probably the highest in fiber of any of the fruits, and they also have lots of phytochemicals and antioxidants. The intact whole grains, they call them intact whole grains because they haven't been processed. Now, a lot of people are eating steel-cut oats, and that's where they've just taken the whole oat and cut it. It makes it will cook faster. And then sometime after they're steel cut, they can be rolled into rolled oats. They're steamed and cut smaller into quick oats. They're cooked and dried and then put in the little packages. And all of those have some benefit, but the closer you are to the way they were designed, the better for your body, especially for the colon. And the colon has a lot of the microbiome that lives in the colon, and we can't chew food thoroughly enough so that some of those little pieces of grains or beans or vegetables or fruits that make it all the way to the colon becomes good food for those postbiotics that produce very beneficial things to our health. So it's okay to eat some blended food, like you're making a smoothie or something, but when you put it in a blender, it's going to be a smaller particle and can start absorption higher in the GI tract. But when you're chewing it, like these grains for breakfast or some nice beans, then your colon is actually really happy when it gets those little amounts of fiber so that it is fed and those good microbiome grow. Nuts and seeds, especially the omega-3 fats, this is a great way to get those omega-3 fats because you have to go looking for omega-3s. They're not just out there in all foods. So our body is a special temple that God has created, and He's given us some good instruction on how to take care of it. And He's saying, okay, I've created all this good food for you. And when you eat it, it gives you life. It helps your body to be healthy. It helps your brain to be healthy. But we are bombarded by a lot of distraction in our culture of wanting to eat other things. And when we start eating those other things, we start to create an appetite for those things. Has anyone here ever been on a mission trip and you, when you got there, you really didn't like the food that was being served, but you stayed long enough and you started eating that food, and pretty soon it became something you liked? Anybody have that experience? Do you have an example?
When I go to Haiti, and beans and rice and beans, and it wasn't exactly my favorite.
Yeah. Did you come home and actually make such things?
I tried.
Oh.
Do it the way they did it.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah, I've heard that experience from many people who travel. And it's true for us because we start to eat the food and we start having that microbiome part of our gut, and pretty soon that starts to influence our taste, and we can actually start enjoying food, that particular food. So eating is not about deprivation, it's about abundance, and it's something to be totally enjoyable. God created so many different varieties of foods for us to enjoy, and but when we get sidetracked and we start eating a lot of processed foods, it can start to change the type of food that we like. So if you're eating a lighter supper and you wake up in the morning and you have a nice slow cooker full of awesome grains, and Peter and I eat this every morning with enthusiasm. It tastes so good to us, and it's so good for me because he makes all our breakfast too. So that makes me really happy. But I just would challenge you to try it, and maybe there's a little bit left that you can take home to share and let somebody else there try it out in your household, and to see if it's something you'd like. My phone number is on the paper there if you have any questions when you get home about anything, but about the grains or whatever, you can give me a call. But I want you to raise your right hand. I promise to do my best to eat those high fiber foods to feed my gut so that I can be happy and healthy. Okay.
All right. Evelyn, if after enjoying all of this, if you're like most people that I know after one of Evelyn's presentations, you'd like to know more of how she eats, because she makes it look so simple and it's so yummy and yet it's so healthy. Is your cookbook still available through the ABC?
It's in the process of being revised and should be by January.
So the title of it is
Change Your Body One Bite at a Time.
It's a wonderful cookbook by Evelyn Kissinger.
There's also another great cookbook by one of my friends here in town,
Luann
Luann Bomero. It's called Amazing meals.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of my favorite
It's in
cookbooks.
2 big volumes.
2 volumes. Yeah, 500, 700 pages. And it has so many great, tasty, all different ethnic foods. It's
She's
awesome.
incredibly gifted at finding a healthy way to mimic the foods we're accustomed to.
Yes.
And so you can find a recipe for just about anything that you want to try to do in
It's
those
wonderful.
volumes. Yes.
Yes.
And then you worked with another series on health that was available on the ABC for a while. Is that a training series?
I don't know which
The
one you're
ones
talking
with
about.
Vicki on the
Oh,
cover?
Lifestyle Matters. Yes. We've created a lot of materials. You can go to lifestylematters.com, and there are some great materials on there for you to, on lots of different topics on health. Yes.
All right. Well, I've been listening for many years, and I learn something new every single time. And isn't it always nice to just be reminded, have that little shot in the arm to remind us to get back to what we know as well. Questions?
Just email me in January. Yeah.
For the questions, please use the mic because people online cannot hear you.
Okay, we'll repeat the question. The question is,
When will the cookbook be available? And I expect to have it ready by January. Yeah. Well, it's not just a cookbook. It's a nutrition book with recipes.
Yes, it starts out with how Evelyn starts her day. I'm fortunate enough to have the original version at home. Very helpful, very good recipes. Are there any more questions from our audience? All right, we've absorbed a lot tonight, haven't we? I would just like to ask a blessing on you and on our dear presenter, Evelyn, before we leave each other this evening. Heavenly Father, it's been a privilege to come together because as we do that, you've taught us to come together, given us an example in the Bible, and yet you bless us so much. You give us the opportunity to make new friends, to enjoy social outlet, but also to come away revived and renewed with new information and new courage to do what we can do to help our bodies be ready to serve you in the best way. So we thank you for again answering our prayer and blessing us. I pray that you will take each person safely home, give us a good night's rest, and wake us renewed to serve you with dedication and with good, healthful living. In Jesus' precious name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you for coming, and please contact me if you have any questions. Tell the people next to you what you're going to do different this week to get more fiber.